So welcome to the party. I there's a bunch of different topics. Of course, there always is. There's 1,000 different topics. But one I was thinking of the most lately, just because we've talked about it on a handful of occasions, was and I really like this. I really like the topic. Is a system of creativity and a system of capturing ideas and categorizing ideas and having the discipline to have your eyes and ears and your mind open for that at all times, and also for the experience to know when to sort of upgrade elements and ideas and quotes or lines, because even a quote, anything can turn into a situation, a scenario, or a sketch, or a book or a movie, whatever you want to call it. And I was thinking a lot. I mean, we've a handful of occasions we've spoken about this, and I always get asked about it because I'm somewhat of an expert in this sort of thing. And it's just one of those things. And people always want to know how to get things going, or to have the confidence, or a system in place, and how to acquire the experience. Having yourself always open to getting a chuckle at something that bubbles up in your mind, or something you hear, and then you forget it. That's just not good. You have to have a system out. Some people like pen and paper, and you have to write it down. I'll say it. All the ideas you have, and it doesn't matter if you're looking to go into a comedy or if you're looking to write. It's important that you have a system of capturing your ideas, because it gives you practice, and it gives you confidence after a while. After you have 10, 20, 100, 200, 1,000, 10,000, whatever it is, it's pretty essential that you get into that habit. There's two different kinds of experience you have here when you're trying to do creative stuff. There's the experience of the accumulation of confidence in the worthiness of the ideas that bubble up into your mind, and how worthy you deem them. If you think of things and you just don't even bother writing them down, and you don't bother remembering them, but it requires you having yourself open to your ideas being worthy in the first place. And even if they're not worthy, I guess you're not going to feel worthy at the beginning, but you need to capture them, whether it be pen and paper, or you have some sort of a digital system. And being prolific, I mean, there's a difference between being prolific in things that are released or things that are fleshed out, and an accumulation of notes. If you're a writer, you write however many pages a day, or you write however many hours a day. There's a system for things that are kind of more advanced than just capturing ideas. But if you don't start, say, if you work with just free writing straight up, sometimes you can't shut it off, And if you can't shut it off, you need tools that will capture those things so you can continue them down the line. It took me a long time to be confident of things. It takes most people a long time. Some people it doesn't. I don't know, but it's work, and it's diligence, and it's discipline. But I'm a sort of a veteran, and I have quite a deal of practical experience, theoretical and practical experience, in the realm of pretty wild, twisted ideas and comedy. And it's important. It's important that you have confidence, and that you collect. Now there are pitfalls in over collecting. There are bottlenecks within your workflow that, if you're not really familiar with yourself, know thyself, and know the bottlenecks that exist within your own mind, and the bottlenecks that can be created by being either underwhelmed by material or overwhelmed. So you have to really know how you work. It's understated a lot of times. People are like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I don't even know what other people say about it. I'm sure they say good stuff, but sometimes people give bad advice." And I've done my best not to give bad advice. Keep a healthy bottleneck, though. The mind can't handle constant output of unfiltered ideas. The actual risk of being prolifically creative is being a freak loser. I hear you, man. You have to have ideas. Like, you get to a point where things they need to be actionable. And you can't be put underwater by having an overwhelming mind if you're working with a lot. Because if you're working with a lot, you really need to have a pipeline or a system to actually get things done, and not just be a professional idea, an ideas man whose ideas are never used. To be an ideas man is good, but it requires that you have the diligence in keeping yourself open, the experience of being confident, in order that you even deem worthy the ideas that bubble up for you to catch. But just remember, confidence and diligence and openness to the worth of your own ideas, in order that you even begin collecting them at all, is just vital. Just remember those things. And if you've got lots and lots of notes, it's good to have your mind on future recall and organization. And it also, the more you think about levels of organization, which you could call tags. People like to do notebooks. I'm not a notebook guy, I'm a tag guy, okay? So categories of whatever sort of energy is imbued in the idea. So if something is funny, then you can tag it funny. I know this seems silly, but if you don't have things organized, you cannot get back to them in the future. And I've spent loads of time reviewing and tagging things years after they were written. And it's like a time machine. So a lot of things can bring you back. So it's good to revisit, but when you're trying to search for things, it's not possible. But if you have things organized and you have things tagged, like let's say if something is a quote or a line of dialogue, a line or a quote, whatever. If something is funny or violent or has an element of sex in it, these things need to be recorded so that when or animals, something that's so if you need something that has sex and animals and funny all mixed together, you can search those tags and have all of your things at your fingertips. It's pretty easy for me. I could do that right now and have 500 things ready to blast out for you right now. I could go through my tags and my notes. I have everything tagged. Everything tagged. I have everything tagged. Then when it's time to review those things, it's sort of like task management thing. It's kind of like, like getting things done. So it's essential that you can record something and worry about it later. And then when you're working, you can get to it. You can classify it with those levels of organization, those tags, and then you can put it somewhere else. Whether it's in a giant notebook of just elements of things that aren't fleshed out, or if you have a notebook of sketches. If you know an idea in your head is formulated enough to where it has like a premise and a build-up and a punchline or something like that, however you define something that could go past just an element, you have your sketches. If you have something that's a funny situation that could be a sketch, that maybe is a situation for inside of a sketch, I call them adult situations. I guess I could just call them situations instead. But I like the name adult situations, so it's been with me for a long time. You understand? It's essential that you have the next stage of where an idea can go, so it's not just floating in a sea of 50,000 ideas. The more it's classified, the easier it is to work with in the future. Things need tags, and they need to be in a notebook that is appropriate for where it could go. Now, if you've got a project, you could make a notebook or a folder or some sort of a container for a project. But I like tags. Because a situation that is designed specifically for a certain writing project can be recalled elsewhere for something else if that project either goes nowhere or it's not ready yet. That's why it's so important to be inside of a tag world, so nothing gets hidden from you when you're trying to recall things in the future. So if it is worthy of being recalled on the fly, if I'm ever called upon quickly to bounce off something that is relatively fleshed out, so I'm not like, well, some guy says this line. I like a notebook of sketches that I think could possibly be developed, so I put them in there. I'll put it in the situations, but if something could have a bigger payoff than just the situation itself, then I'll have it in a sketches folder, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? It's important to know these things. If you don't have a system, you have nothing, and then you'll be in an endless ocean of ideas. Then what do? What do you scroll through a couple thousand things? That's not easy. And whatever software you're using, you can sort of stack the tags and make a focused search, and then you have that ready for you. So consider those things. Yeah, you can't have a 30,000 word document. If you have endless notes, you cannot do it. So there are two different things. You have a database. You have a database for ideas that you've created, and you have a separate database for things that are accumulated from other sources. It's essential to save references when you're working on hyper-creative projects. You need references. If you're working on music, whether it be composition or even mixing, you're going to have references of a sort of a sound that you're trying to achieve, that you can do comparisons, so you can try to get certain sounds you're looking for. And the same goes with everything. If you want to build a set, or you want to light scenes, or a style of editing, whether it's framing or motion or timing, it's good to have references that aren't just words that you write down. So it's essential. Remember those things. Who else is going to tell you these things? Has anyone else told anybody doing anything creative these things before? They're like, oh, dude, it's just hard work. You're going to work hard like me, getting 10 minutes of sleep, getting 7 minutes of breakfast, sees his children for 45 minutes, then he works out for 5 hours, then he'll do some other projects for 6 hours, then he'll take a 4-minute break. Yeah, right, yeah. You got to get up at 4 a.m. Oh, really? I'm just that guy. I work just that hard. It's not about that. That's a lie. Plus, that stuff is a lie. All the routines from these celebrities, that stuff is a lie. It's meant to demoralize you, to make you feel like you're lazy and worthless. Oh, the reason why these guys got where they are right now, it's not anything weird. No. It's because they work that much harder than you. That's why they make the... Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Is that right? Is that right? But you guys get what I'm saying. It's important that people know these tricks, because I'm somewhat of an expert. But just remember what I've said, because who else is going to put forth the wisdom of a veteran creator? Now you know. Now if you're interested in creation, then you have better tools